In a city that never truly sleeps, where lights shimmer like unspoken dreams, two people found something rare, something quiet, something real. Don't forget to subscribe for more insider stories, trending moments, and viral breakdowns. Boat was known for his calm presence, the kind of person who didn't need to speak much to be understood. Oat, on the other hand, was warmth itself, bright, expressive, and impossible to ignore. They were different in every way, and somehow that made them fit. They met on a film set. It started simply. A greeting, a shared script, a few laughs between takes. Nothing unusual. But over time, something shifted. It was in the way Boat always noticed when Oat was tired. In the way Oat stayed back just a little longer after filming just to talk. And slowly, without either of them saying it out loud, they became important to each other. Late nights turned into long conversations. They talked about everything, dreams, fears, the pressure of always being seen but never truly known. Do you ever feel like you're just performing? Oat asked one night. Both thought for a moment before answering. Only when I'm not with you. That was the first time silence felt different. Not empty, but full. Days turned into months. Their bond grew in ways no one could quite explain. Fans noticed. People always do. But what they had wasn't something easy to define. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't announced. It simply existed. But not everything that exists is meant to stay the same. Opportunities came. Schedules changed. Distance slowly found its way in. At first it was small. Missed calls. Shorter replies. Less time together. Nothing serious. At least, that's what they told themselves. One evening, after weeks of barely seeing each other, they finally met again. The atmosphere felt unfamiliar. Not because they had changed, but because something between them had. You've been busy, Oat said softly. Boat nodded. You too. That was it. Two simple sentences. But they carried everything neither of them knew how to say. They sat together, but it didn't feel the same. The ease was gone, replaced by something quieter, something uncertain. Do you think things change? Oat asked after a while. Boat looked at him. Everything changes. Oat nodded slowly. I was hoping we wouldn't. Silence followed. Not the comfortable kind they once shared, but the kind that makes you realize something is slipping away. They didn't argue. They didn't fight. Because sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the quiet ones. The ones where no one is at fault. Where nothing terrible happened. And yet everything still falls apart. I don't want to lose this, Oat said, his voice barely above a whisper. Boat's expression softened. You're not losing it, he replied. But even as he said it, he knew things were already different. Time moved on. As it always does. They continued their lives. Filming. Events. Smiles for the camera. To the world, nothing had changed. But, to them, everything had. They still crossed paths sometimes. At studios. At events. In passing moments that felt both familiar and distant. Take care, Oat would say. You too, Boat would reply. Always polite. Always calm. Never the same. One day, they were offered a new project together. A story about two people who once meant everything to each other. The irony didn't go unnoticed. Will you do it? The manager asked. Oat hesitated. Boat looked down at the script. After a long pause, they both gave the same answer. Yes. Filming began. And with it, memories returned. The same laughter. The same quiet understanding. The same connection that had never completely disappeared. But this time, they were careful. Because they had learned something important. Some feelings don't need to be relived to be real. During one scene, their characters stood face to face. Close. Too close. I should have told you, Boat said, reading his line. Oat felt something shift. Why didn't you? He replied. Boat paused. Then, softly, I thought I had more time. The words lingered, because they felt true. When the scene ended, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Some things are understood without words. The project ended successfully. Fans praised their chemistry, called it natural, emotional, real. They weren't wrong, because what they saw was something that once existed beyond the script. On the final day, as everyone said their goodbyes, Boat and Oat stood together one last time.
No cameras. No scripts.
Just them. I'm glad we did this, Oat said. Boat nodded. Me too. A pause. Then Oat smiled, soft, genuine. Take care of yourself. You too, Boat replied. And just like that, they went their separate ways. Not as strangers. Not as something unfinished. But as two people who once shared something meaningful. Something that didn't last forever. But mattered anyway. Because not every story needs a perfect ending. Some stories are meant to stay exactly as they are. Incomplete. Honest. And unforgettable. The city never sleeps, but sometimes people do. Boat Yonggyet walked through the quiet streets, hands buried in pockets, feeling the weight of memory pressing against him. It had been months since he and Oat Pasicorn had last spoken outside the studio. Months filled with unanswered questions, fleeting moments, and a quiet ache that refused to fade. Every corner reminded him of laughter once shared. Every cafe, every streetlight, every passing car seemed to carry a memory he couldn't touch. And yet, he found himself walking toward the old filming location, the place where everything had begun. O was already there, rehearsing alone, his script open on a bench. The soft hum of the city surrounded him, but he was unaware of Boat approaching, lost in his own thoughts. For a long moment, they didn't speak. Just two people standing in the same space, both aware of the invisible distance between them. You came, Oat finally said, voice quiet. I didn't mean to, Boat replied, though he did. And that simple acknowledgement cracked something fragile open. They sat together on the bench, the city lights reflecting in the nearby canal. Oat broke the silence first. Do you ever think about us? Boat hesitated.
Ido.
More than I should. Oat nodded. Me too. But I don't know if thinking is enough anymore. They talked about everything. Dreams they had shelved, mistakes they wished they could undo, fears they never shared. The conversation felt heavy and light all at once, like walking through water you know will eventually sweep you apart. I sometimes imagine a version of us where timing didn't matter, Oat said softly. Boat's fingers clenched. I imagine that too. Every day. And for a moment, it was almost as if time had folded back on itself. Weeks later, fate, or maybe coincidence, brought them together again. A new project required them to act as partners, close friends, and eventually something deeper. The irony was not lost on them. They had learned to act as strangers on screen before, but now, the lines blurred between reality and fiction. The first day of filming was awkward. Each glance carried unspoken emotion. Every shared line became charged with a history they both remembered, but neither had claimed. During one rehearsal, Boat's character reached out for Oat's. And for a heartbeat, real hands brushed, sending a jolt neither of them expected. Cut! The director called, but the world around them felt paused. Are you okay? Boat asked softly, stepping back. I am, Oat said, though his heart beat too fast to be convincing. They continued filming, but every scene carried an undercurrent of tension, a delicate push and pull that only those who had loved and lost could truly understand. Filming wrapped one evening, and they stayed behind. The studio was empty, lights dimmed. Boat found Oat sitting on the steps outside, looking at the sky. I still don't know if we can ever go back, Boat admitted. Oat was silent for a moment. Then he whispered, maybe we don't need to go back. Maybe we just move forward differently. Boat nodded, slowly. But what if moving forward still means letting go? Oat's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Then maybe we let go, the way we always should have. For the first time in months, they were honest. Not acting. Not pretending. Just two people standing on the edge of a possibility neither could define. The next day, filming resumed. Their scenes were intense, emotional, and raw. Fans watching the show could feel the tension, the longing, the intimacy, but only Boat and Oat knew the depth behind it. They became experts at hiding it from the world, yet allowing it to surface just enough to make their art believable. Between scenes, they stole moments, brief, Stolen glances, shared coffees, quiet smiles. Every encounter was a reminder of what once was and what might never be. And yet it was enough.
For now.
One night, after the final day of filming, they met on the rooftop of the studio. The city stretched below them, lights shimmering like memories that refused to fade. Oat turned to Boat. I need to know, do we continue this, or is this the end? Boat looked at him, the answer heavy in his eyes. I don't know if we can be what we were, but maybe we can be something new, something real. Oat nodded. A small, fragile smile appeared. Then let's try differently. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a return to the past.
But it was honest.
And honesty, they both realized, might be the closest thing to forever they would ever have. Months later, the project premiered. Fans praised their chemistry, calling it breathtaking, authentic, unforgettable. But behind the applause, Boat and Oat knew the real story, one that belonged only to them. They had learned to live with memories, to forgive mistakes, and to embrace a connection that didn't need to be defined by labels. Sometimes love isn't about possession. Sometimes it's about presence. And in a city that never sleeps, with lights that never dim, they had found each other, not in the past, not in perfection, but in the moments that truly mattered. Don't forget to subscribe for more insider stories, trending moments, and viral breakdowns. The city lights flickered beneath them like a million tiny confessions as Boat and Oat walked side by side through the quiet streets. They no longer had to pretend. No scripts, no cameras, no fans, just the soft rhythm of two hearts trying to understand themselves again. Oat glanced at Boat, the way he always did when he wanted to ask something but didn't know how. Do you ever wonder what we'd be like if we'd started differently? Boat smiled softly, a bittersweet curve. Every day. But then I think, maybe we wouldn't appreciate now if everything had been easy. Oat's shoulders relaxed slightly. Easy isn't us anyway. They laughed quietly, a sound that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds after a long storm. For the first time in months, neither of them carried the weight of silence between them. But just as the comfort settled, so did the unspoken truth. The past still lingered. They found themselves at the small cafe they had once frequented during filming breaks. The same table, the same corner by the window, and somehow the same familiarity that had always made time feel irrelevant. You've changed, Oat said, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. Boat shook his head. No, just learning to be honest. That's the only difference. Oat nodded slowly. Honest with yourself or with me? Boat paused, his eyes fixed on the reflection in the glass. Both, I hope. I don't want to lose what we have again, whatever form it takes. Oat smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held laughter, regret, and hope all at once. We can't go back to the way things were, but maybe we can go forward together.
Carefully.
Slowly. Boat reached out, his hand hovering near Oat's before brushing it lightly. A touch that said more than words ever could. Oat's fingers curled instinctively around his, not fully, just enough. Silence stretched, comfortable this time, full of understanding rather than hesitation. Days turned into weeks. They returned to filming, but their scenes now carried a new dimension. The quiet honesty between them enriched every glance, every line, every subtle gesture. What once had been acting now felt like a reflection of their shared experiences. Between takes, they would linger in corners, speaking softly. They talked about things they had never voiced before, the fears that kept them awake, the dreams they were still too cautious to share, and the moments that had to find them both in silence. Do you ever regret anything? Oat asked one evening, walking beside Boat through the empty studio lot. Boat shook his head.
No.
Not really. Maybe some choices, but never you. You were always worth it, even when I didn't understand it myself. Oat stopped and turned to face him. Even when we almost lost each other? Boat took a deep breath, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Especially then, because almost losing you made me realize how much I needed to hold on. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them.
No scripts. No cameras. No expectations.
Just the fragile, tentative connection that had survived distance, hesitation, and time. The project wrapped, and the final day of filming came with a quiet ceremony. Fans cheered, the cast hugged, and the cameras captured smiles that were no longer performances. They were real. Afterward, Boat and Oat found themselves on the rooftop again, overlooking the city that had witnessed their past, present, and uncertain future. "I don't know what comes next," Oat said, voice soft. "But I do know I want to be here with you, even if it's not perfect." Boat nodded, his hand finding Oat's naturally, holding it without hesitation. "Then we'll take it one day at a time, carefully, honestly, together." Oat leaned slightly into his shoulder. "I like the sound of that." And in that moment, under the glow of city lights, they didn't need answers. They didn't need promises written in stone. They only needed each other. And that, for now, was enough. Because sometimes love isn't about certainty. Sometimes it's about presence, patience, and the courage to continue, even after almost losing everything. And for Boat and Oat, the story wasn't about the past they almost shared, or the misunderstandings that had kept them apart. It was about what they could create now, slowly, carefully, beautifully, and the unspoken truth that some connections never truly fade. Don't forget to subscribe for more insider stories, trending moments, and viral breakdowns.